We often use this analogy as like, we're basically growing a garden here. And all the founders and the ideas that come to us, we're basically all together planting the seeds for them to grow and become their own unique offering that delights people, that helps people, that supports people. That's our purpose and our goal.
Welcome to the Mind Tech Podcast, where we dive deep into the unsolved problems in mental health with the founders, investors, and experts building technology to solve them. Are we creating technologies that support connection or division, addiction or isolation, mindfulness or distraction? Wisdom Ventures support a new generation of companies that do the former in a world where technology has often achieved the latter. After over 25 years of experience at Google, Microsoft, and Cisco, Ruchika Sikri is accelerating the growth of mindfulness, compassion, and wellness platforms as a partner at Wisdom Ventures. In this episode, we discuss the value of emotional intelligence for VCs, enterprise sales as a gateway to direct-to-consumer sales, the advantages of targeting narrow user groups, and emerging trends in well-being technology. Let's dive in. Welcome, Ruchika. It's a real honor to have you on today. In an era of human history defined by its rapid technological development, it's now more important than ever to intentionally build products and services that serve our inner development as well. So, Ruchika, all the work that you do at Wisdom Ventures and Mandala Ventures to accelerate the growth of wellness technologies that enable human connection, mindfulness, and compassion is all in service of building these products, services, and businesses that are actually good for humans, which is weird how that may be something that stands out, because it would make sense for every company to make products that are actually good for humans, right? But it's awesome that that's such a clear intention for you, and that's also what this podcast is all about. So that's why it's a real pleasure to be speaking with you today. So welcome on.
Thank you, Manu. It's a real pleasure for me as well. It's a topic of great passion to me, and I'm dedicating my life to bringing more well-being, health, and mental health resources to people through the vehicle of technology. So it's great that we're chatting today on our common interest.
Absolutely. I'd like to start with the unique impact that you're able to make as a venture capitalist. While a founder may be able to impact the world by taking an innovation from zero to one, their one venture can be all consuming and perhaps leaves little capacity for making an impact in other ways. Whereas a venture capitalist like yourself can shape the industry from various angles through investments in multiple startups, taking each startup from one to millions, so to speak, scaling them. Is this how you see the impact that you're making in the wellness space? And how does this contribute to the sense of fulfillment that you derive from your work?
Hmm. Yeah, I think the journey for the founders is extremely difficult, and especially I would say if they take on a project that enables well-being, human connection, mindfulness, better mental health. It is extremely important that they stay focused on the value that their product wants to create. And being a VC in this space, and a new VC, I feel like we are setting a new trend here in the venture capital market, where we're prioritizing human flourishing more than the returns on investment. Don't get me wrong, returns on investment is really important. That's how you qualify as a venture capitalist. But at the same time, we believe at Wisdom Ventures that profits don't need to come at the expense of people's health and well-being. And what we noticed is that we technology can do a lot of good to the world, and this is great. Like, you're sitting in Australia, I'm sitting here in California, and we can have this conversation. Thanks to technology for enabling us to do that. But we know that technology can also be causing a lot of harm with the attention deficit disorders that are increasing, anxiety and depression on the rise, distraction, addiction to technology. that is where, like, we basically woke up as a partner team and wanted to make an impact in enabling technology that are actually doing good in the world. I feel we're in a very privileged space, and where we get to meet a lot of founders who are really at that point zero right now, where they have an idea and an intention, and some have made some ways into developing their product, creating a revenue stream from it, and some of them have like made it even further up into the channels. But it's a very new field that's up and coming, and now that the fertile ground has been created, and we love to kind of play in this ground, like with our founders. We often use this analogy as like, we're basically growing a garden here, and all the founders and the ideas that come to us, we're basically all together planting the seeds for them to grow and become their own unique offering that delights people, that helps people, that supports people. So that's how I would say that, that's our purpose, and our goal also is with the founders. And in terms of deriving satisfaction from it, I think we, as partner team, we're all very mission driven. We are very purpose driven. When it comes to living our life, we want to be contributing to something that is bigger than ourselves. And that's what has really brought us together, in that common alignment of that technology can be used to heal the world rather than cause more harm. So we want to together build a better future of mindfulness, human connection, and well-being. And when we see that happen through the founders who come to us and the products they build, the impact it has, the adoption it has with the users, it's very satisfying to see, that, we're living our day purposefully, and we can wake up to every day with a lot of gratitude.
Well said. I particularly love the analogy of being like gardeners, and nurturing and cultivating and giving the founders the conditions to thrive, which is a fantastic way of viewing your role as a venture capitalist. It's interesting. Unlike founders who may be confined to their niche that their startup inhabits, perhaps the place in the garden that their plant sits, I see a venture capitalist operating at the next level up, as you said, as the gardener, at the level of the market, where understanding the market needs, emerging technologies, and opportunities gives you a unique edge to capitalize on when making wise investment decisions. Is this how you view the expertise that a VC investor needs to excel? And what other tools do you need in your toolkit?
Hmm. Yeah, we definitely have that 10,000-foot view on what is going on in the market. What are the needs? We do research, we analyze. When we set out to do our fund, for example, our three focus areas were mindfulness, well-being, and human connection. And we took a very pragmatic approach to understand, is there an industry around it? And what are the products that are being built? Which products have been successful, adopted, where users are engaged and retained, and are getting the benefits? So there is efficacy in using those tools that the founders are creating. And also, what are the tools that people are creating that are not quite working as effectively? So you're right, like we can get on the balcony and take a look at the larger field, and the garden I mentioned, right? Like we can have like a balcony where we can look at the garden and see what's flourishing and where things are being experimented but are not really, growing as much. So our rule is definitely that, but I think as a single VC, it's really hard to influence the whole industry. So one thing we do is like we collaborate with a lot of other VCs who are also mission aligned and are investing in companies similar to the interests that we have. And that's how, we kind of bring this collective together and learn from each other. So in the face of like the venture capital world, the priority that we place in investing in a founder who is value and mission aligned with us, is kind of very differentiated. And because of the differentiated mission we have, every VC has a mission and a vision. But I think, for us, the founder, the creator, the innovator is the number one thing to go to. Like, when we were just connecting, I was like, where did you find your moment of awakening, right? Like, and you mentioned a few things that led you to that. we're deeply interested in knowing what happened with the founder, where they're like, I want to create a mental health resources for eighth graders because they're really struggling, and they're contemplating self-harm. And what happened in your life that kind of led you to like now drive all your dedicated life towards that? And then the nature of the and the quality of the business also we pay attention to, and we also have like markers to kind of compare it with what else is happening in the education space, in mental health space for children, mental health space for mothers, mental health space for college students. Because we're at as we grow in our life, like we have differentiated needs like in different pockets of our life as well. So that's like where I see that we have that differentiated view, and which becomes powerful, Manu, when we bring other VCs along or learn from them, lean on them, and they lean on us. That's how we kind of change the face of it all.
Yeah, I think it's understated how VCs can actually collaborate together, even though they may all want to have their access to the best startups. But if the mission is aligned, then there's something greater than just the profits, and keeping them all to yourself, to be had, right? So wonderful that those values are driving your work there. you know in your career, you've consistently brought mindfulness and well-being to the top of the agenda. One example is in your role as the head of well-being learning programs at Google, where you led mindfulness-based, neuroscience-backed emotional intelligence programs. The skills of emotional intelligence, including self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and leadership skills, are all incredibly important tools, not just in the toolkit of leaders in organizations, but I also think in the toolkit of venture capitalists. So you can empathize with the challenges experienced by founders and to understand the perspectives of the users that your portfolio companies serve. How much of an asset do you feel your emotional intelligence is in your work as a VC investor?
I don't think I can function without that. Like, I feel that was such a foundational element. And the rest of the things are projects that are built upon that foundation. It could be my VC work that I do right now. I happen to also be co founding a company as a founder. So I have now even deeper empathy for founders, like how difficult the journey can be for them. As a wife, as a mother, as a neighbor, as a relative, like, I feel those skills are so critical. And you're right. I think, in the VC world, which I haven't been in this world for a very, very long time, but I realized that, the way VCs can determine a lot about how and when founders can come to them for help, not just on their business strategy or connections to raise more funds, and growth opportunities, but to make some important decisions when they are on that crossroad of prioritizing profit over human conditions that may get impacted by the decisions that they're making. So if VCs would have that skill set of emotional intelligence, of self-awareness, self-regulation, self-compassion, I feel like VCs can be very hard on themselves as well, right? Like, the profits can be huge and losses can be humongous as well in this field. And we tend to take everything personally, but at the end of the day, it's like the work that we're doing with our best effort, intentions, skills, and capabilities, and continuing to like stay motivated from those three foundational elements of awareness, regulation, and compassion, to then build the tools for empathy, for not just the founders, the companies that they're building, but the users that are going to be impacted, which basically for us VCs as well is our family members, right? Like my friends, my neighbors. And that's true for each and every VC. When we make an investment decision to design and develop a product through a company that we're investing in, that product is going to somehow impact me as well as my circle of friends and family as well. And I think that should just generate like that sense of right livelihood that we should bring into our mind, as one of our wonderful partner Jack Cornfield often talks and reminds us about, like, we should invest in companies that are enabling right livelihood for every human being on this world. um, so those are some of the tenets, I would say, and then the drive and motivation to wake up every day and go to work, invest in companies, support founders in whatever way they want. It's a very different way. It's very positive, impact driven. We keep the social good in mind. And then, we lead from that aspect. That's like one of the competencies of emotional intelligence as well, on how we lead, because that has a huge influence on the world we're seeing right now around us, and also the world we want to see, in a few years from now.
Definitely. I feel like that's very well aligned with one of your key areas of focus, which is nurturing human connection. So it's great to see that you really practice what you preach in really promoting that sense of human connection. It's also wonderful to see that you're making human connection and improving that a reality, not just as an investor, but also as the co-founder of Ready, like you mentioned, which for those listening who don't already know, is an evolved dating app and a home for relationships, which develops the skills required for authentic connection through continuous personal growth on the platform. And this concept really resonates with me because I believe one of the most promising areas of development in wellness innovation is in products that focus on building skills that empower people to solve their own problems rather than solving problems for them. Kind of really developing that self driven nature that is required to improve one's quality of life through improving their quality of mind. You could say, in a way, that's where ed tech and mind tech overlap in a sense to really help people learn and build the skills that they need. What are your thoughts on improving mental health through products that help users do self improvement work rather than products that provide a more immediate relief, for example?
Hmm. Yeah, I think self development, personal growth, personal transformation is definitely possible. It doesn't matter where we are and um, how we are feeling right now. Some people are like kind of on the better part of the journey, or some people haven't quite started, and some people may even feel that they're so behind that there is no scope and way for them to begin. One thing I always say is, like, there's always a possibility to begin again, right? So, and these are slow processes. Like, we're the creatures of habits. So if we have built good habits, they carry us. If we've built, or somehow the not so healthy habits got created, then they carry us too. The first step is, again, like going back to our emotional intelligence question and conversation, is self-awareness. And when the self-awareness rises, like not shaming ourselves, not going on a guilt trip, because guess what? That's actually just going to bring us down, and we will be caught in that spiral of never recovering from it. In terms of the technology and the products that can support that long-term growth and development, it are really picking up right now. I mean, my first interaction with the mindfulness app was Headspace when I was still at Google, and we were providing employees education around mindfulness backed by neuroscience and based in emotional intelligence. However, we did not have an infrastructure where people could go practice. And all the scientific studies, for example, told us that mindfulness works if you practice it. It's not like when you read a book or you go to a class, suddenly something will change and you will become a mindful person. It's kind of like flossing our teeth every day to keep them healthy. We got to floss our brains and our mind to keep it clear, attentive, productive, um, and connected with others, right? So Headspace was like an app which we saw got really adopted very fast at Google. All of our program participants would participate in it. And we provided that as a perk to employees. But since then, there have been many, many tools that have been created for self help, where you can be on journeys yourself. and also help that you can receive from professionals like BetterHelp, Talkspace. If you're looking for therapy, it's kind of more accessible to us right now rather than driving to a therapist's office. So that has become more, kind of integrated in us, in our life. But also, like, some productivity enhancement tools and health enhancement tool, longevity tools. I'm seeing just every day, there are so many companies that come to us with the funding interest on either they're building a wearable, an app, a service that just advances the life of people, either mentally, physically, emotionally. So definitely possible to do that with technology, and more easy to bring it into people's hands by doing that.
Definitely. I think it's really interesting how you explain the impact of Headspace being adopted in the workplace, like at Google. I think delivering wellness-based products and services in the workplace do a fantastic job of meeting people where they already are and providing them with the tools they need to manage their mental health wherever they sit on the spectrum of mental health. A couple of examples of Wisdom Ventures portfolio companies doing this so well are Momentu and Juno, who both reduce work stress and increase employee retention through their wellness products. The workplace wellness model is also one of the most successful business models in the wellness space, given its ability to acquire customers in bulk and retain its users over longer periods of time. I wonder what are your thoughts on this business model, and which other business models do you see as most promising in this aspect?
Yeah, the enterprise sales is definitely a go to model for when companies are creating mental health resources, because mainly the enterprises are now focusing much more on their employee overall health and well being. And it's often, not possible for them to have resources like Google could afford me to be their head of well-being learning. And there were, 10 other people working on different initiatives that were related to food, diet, exercise, nutrition, all those different elements that bring together good health and well-being. But now that with the whole advent of like technology that's available to us, workplaces can just subscribe to services like this. Like at that time, I would say 14 years ago, it was just Headspace that was available to us. But one of the other company we've invested in, it's called WON, Walking on Earth. It's actually inspired by Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching. But the company actually has this solid platform where they can give you an organizational health and well-being index based on the biometric information that they can anonymously collect and report out on using their artificial intelligence engine. Cut down by either department level information, company level information, managerial team level information, as far as the minimum count are met. And they, once the organization has that information, then they can channel some programs that are not so expensive per employee head basis, and provide those avenues to employees to take on, some ways to improve their health and well-being, because studies have also shown that it directly improves not just the productivity but also the bottom line of the company. We actually did some studies at Google where we showed people who feel healthier actually contribute better towards revenue and the product development side of things as well. Having said that, enterprise is not the only model. There are models that are B2C, direct to customer. And like Headspace, for example, is one of them. Calm is one of them. Ready is going to be one of them as we're building it. So in wellness space, even in the wearable space, if you see with Whoop and Aura Ring, I mean, enterprises can, of course, give discounted prices to their employees or give it to them for free. But at the same time, they're all direct to consumer opportunities that are created. I would also say physical fitness apps and products that are coming out there are even more so direct to consumers. Whereas like mostly mental health resources is what I've seen, either our founders work with schools, they work with colleges, or they work with enterprises, because either that can be covered by companies' insurance policies, or the company set aside extra budget to give, help to employees for continued investment in their health and well-being.
Hmm. Yeah, wonderful how the door isn't closed to being able to access the wider market as well, because often I think users who don't have the privilege of having their workplace offer them these kind of perks may be the people who actually are in most need of these apps, because they can suffer from the most inequalities and come from the most deprived backgrounds. So I think it is important to be able to offer the product to them, as well as be able to infiltrate the workplace and really foster a well-being culture there as well. You
Hmm.
know, another advantage that I think startups innovating for wellness can give themselves is targeting a narrow, well-defined user group, such as carers for the elderly, parents of children with autism, or like Alkeem Health is doing, one of your other portfolio companies, serving the wellness needs of a specific ethnic minority group, Black people. And targeting traditionally overlooked demographic groups not only addresses an unmet need that is socially unjust, but it also grows new demand, which is exciting in both economic and societal impact terms. Do you actively look out for startups that target specific user groups, particularly the overlooked demographic groups? And how much of an advantage do you think they have in fostering loyalty and engagement amongst their users?
Hmm. To answer your first question, yes, it's a very important focus for us at Wisdom Ventures to look at diversifying our portfolio, not just like the founder demographics, but also the users that they are trying to focus their products on. And I would say in the case of Alchemy Health, yes, Ryan Mundy is definitely creating a platform that is providing generational health for Black people. And, we're very, very proud of that investment. Momentum particularly is like focused on Latin America, so to say. And sometimes it's not just the ethnic background of who we are, but also specific populations like mothers when they, are going through motherhood journey or just deliver the baby, the postpartum depression. It's quite, it has a huge impact on their own health and the health of people who are dependent on the moms, right? Especially when the babies are born. So we have invested in a company called Seven Starling that focuses on the mental health of mothers, particularly. So we're just really looking at like where can we go in, because mental health resources are not like one size fits all. There is such a strong string of generational element or gender-based like elements that are needed to be in focus when the solutions are created and offered. That we're paying attention to that, and that's why we feel like we're kind of like experts in that field and can go into the balcony and see like, oh yeah, mothers need help, college students need help, Black people need help, like all the generations. Like one of our other company called Hupo, they pivoted, but initially they started with caring for mental health for Asian population, where mental health is a big taboo for in countries like India, China, Korea. Like people don't like to talk about mental health at all, and if they do, then they're shunned or outcasted from the communities in many ways. So definitely paying attention to that. And I missed the second part of your question. Can you repeat that, Manu?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry for asking the double question there. Um,
Yeah.
how much of an advantage do you think these startups have when they're targeting such a niche target user group? Because I foresee some advantages in developing loyalty and engagement, because if the users feel like they are so directly and uniquely the target of these products and services, they may feel that much more attached to the product. So I wonder if you've seen many benefits in terms of how the users are kept engaged uh, with these products that are built targeting such specific user groups?
Hmm. Yeah, our investments are not that old in these companies. So I think they're still kind of doing, I mean, in some cases, the product market fit was already established. And that's when the founders came to us, and that gave us confidence in investing in them. And some were even earlier than that, where, they were just developing a product, and we really thought that this is needed because of the anecdotal information that we had. Um, as I was kind of mentioning, that one of the recognition we have as a team is that no one size fits all. And people who are closer to their audience and closer to the suffering that their people are feeling, they will have a better chance of resolving some of those challenges for them than somebody who's never kind of been close to that community ever. And, we feel like in Alchemy Health, Ryan Mundy, he actually went through his own mental health challenges that he talks very openly about, and has seen, like, in his community, what works, what doesn't work. So, we trust that, like, the loyalty will definitely come from not just that the Black founder is creating for the Black founder, but also understands and is a significant figure that people would want to kind of learn from, and go and get involved in the community that he's building, for example. And similarly, we kind of just really pay attention to that. That if people have been there, done that, and have come through it, then they have a better chance to solve or alleviate the suffering that their communities are going through right now. So that's kind of our thinking about, like, trusting that, Ruchika can create a particular product, but she can't create the other one because I haven't been in the shoes of those, users yet.
Hmm. Yeah, makes total sense. I especially like your point about how it's those companies have a greater chance of achieving something like product market fit because of how specific they're being, and that makes it very clear to whoever they're targeting in the market that the product is for them. So yeah, that's definitely an advantage, and obviously connecting with the founders, the team
Yeah.
building it, that's a great thing for the users as well.
If I can share, like, actually one more example, we met with another founder very recently, and their company is called Open Health, and it's basically focused on providing cardiovascular related testing to communities that have the highest cardiovascular problems. And the way they're kind of doing this is, like, they're integrating the cardiovascular testing into the mainstream world, so people can get a blood pressure check done when they're going for a haircut or going to a grocery store if they're not able to make it to, like, the doctor's office, because traditionally in their family there hasn't been a habit to go to the doctor and meet your PCP and get your vitals done and blood work done. And we felt like, wow, like, that's amazing. Like, the person is so close to the community that now they know that they can help them, by meeting them where they already are, rather than, inviting them into spaces where they are not going already. So definitely, I think there is something to, finding an audience that you understand very well and creating products to meet their health and well-being needs.
Mhm. Definitely. In the age of social media influencers, I think that power of audience does need to be tapped into, even for people who wouldn't consider themselves social media influencers, but really are influencing the well-being of people through their products and services. So interesting aspect there. Um, Ruchika, it's been a fascinating, insightful, enjoyable discussion. My final question to you may be a little more broad, so giving you the freedom to kind of maybe draw on what's exciting you most right now. But what trends in mental health technology or in the wellness, mindfulness, connection space do you think are coming together now to enable new opportunities for startups and investors to make a significant impact?
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a very broad field of development happening. I feel like the technology in the space of mental health, well being, and health is a new field altogether. It's an emergent field. And with the introduction of artificial intelligence in the mix of it all, we're yet to see the world that can get created from here, Manu. But we're seeing companies that are building like chatbots for for people to talk to discuss their mental health issues. And we're seeing some articles where people tend to trust those chatbots more than they trust a person, a real human being, which is distressful to see, but at the same time, it's also that, somebody has a resource available to them on their fingertips. I would say um, that area is yet to be tested and proven. There can be a lot of harm that can get created, in addition to the health that can also come from there. So I think that area is being studied very carefully and closely right now, as is artificial intelligence overall. And wearables is like very interesting market. I'm seeing a lot more interest in people trying out the Aura Ring, the Whoop, the Apollo Band, Apple Watch, and getting deeply interested in the biometric information. And the other areas like the functional health, I would say, people are getting very interested in getting to know how is their body working beyond, what doctors can kind of give them on an yearly report check. In United States, like, healthcare is often equated to sick care, beyond like just one or two doctor appointments that you can afford to go to, with your insurance coverage each year, where you have to fall sick, in order to really get some intensive care. So I'm seeing a lot of development happening in the private health space, where you can go to a company like Functional Health, is another investment that we have made, and get a series of testing done twice a year. And these are like gene level tests that can tell you if you have any biomarkers for cancer. And as cancer is on the rise, still it's being detected, when people reach stage 3, stage 4. And, can we get ahead of that and give those markers to people ahead of time? So if through lifestyle changes or through pharma, like they can actually cure that before it advances to that level of intensity. So I would say, I think artificial intelligence is going to have a huge impact in the well-being health space. I hope it's all for the positive, and I have big hopes from it. Um, and function health is becoming important as well, and the biometrics, like including the glucose monitors and things like that, are becoming increasingly adopted by the populations all around us. So those are some of the trends, but I'm sure we can think of more.
Well, those are very insightful, definitely bringing together more physical biometric data to have better insights into the mind, I think is an area for significant development. And yeah, it's also the severe mental illness as well, the intensive care, as you mentioned. It hasn't so much been tapped into because it requires a lot more regulatory legwork and validation. But as companies progress through that validation stage, then they will have greater utility in really impacting patients and improving outcomes. So that's something I share with you. I want to see that happen soon as well.
Mhm.
Ruchika, it has been a real pleasure to learn about all the incredible work that you continue to do in prioritizing human flourishing and building a future of greater human connection and well-being. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Manu.
Every startup that has featured on Mindtech is solving a mental health problem with a technology-enabled solution. To get a full picture of all the problems these startups are working on and all the solutions they're offering, sign up to the email list in the description to access the Mindtech Matrix. This is the first visual representation of how mental health problems are being matched by innovative solutions. You'll also be updated whenever there's a new episode and get early access to test some of the products that are discussed in the podcast. Everything you need is in the description.